2, 1. Here we are with another legendary video from none other than your host, your speaker, your extravagant thinker, Cole Poots. So it's really funny how these things work on these YouTube videos. Is for like 7 or 8 weeks in a row consistently I was doing Music Monday reactions, and then 2 weeks ago I did that video talking about the emotional struggles that I was going through and the overthinking and the fear and all that sort of deeply layered stuff. And then last week I kind of did a special episode. Don't even really know what to call it. I turned it into a podcast and then dropped it as a video on YouTube of the 25 things that I've learned by the age of 25. And my birthday was this last Monday on the 21st. Today is the 27th Sunday in which I am recording this video, but it'll get dropped tomorrow, March 28th. So I don't know. I've just kind of been on this trend now this will be the third video out of the last 3 weeks where I'm just kind of sitting here and talking about things that are on my mind, and hopefully some of this knowledge and insight that I've had inside of myself will help some of you people out there grow and challenge you to think a little bit more introspectively into things that you could change about your life. I wouldn't say that there was this overall big shift in perspective that happened on Monday when I turned 25. But I definitely think that some of the things that have been giving me some issues here recently that have been causing anxiety, I've been able to work out those issues a lot better in my head. And so part of that came on my birthday, where I had a few conversations with some family members, and then ultimately I talked to my therapist. And then Tuesday, the following day, the 22nd, I went to a lecture at the Hoyt Sherman here in Iowa, in Des Moines, and Jordan Peterson was there giving a lecture, and I went with my best friend Dakota Phillips, and we sat there and listened to this lecture for about 2.5 hours. And then before we went up there, we were having a bro talk, and then after the lecture we kind of continued our bro talk. And I don't know, it was just kind of a magical moment for me and for Dakota, because both of us understand the power that those types of conversations have on the two individuals or whatever individuals that are present. And this is something that Jordan Peterson talked about in his lecture that night. So this is kind of the idea for the video. Sorry, that was a really weird intro, but I was like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. I don't know what I'm going to do for this week's video. And as I was laying on my couch chair and just kind of taking a few minutes today to rest, because I had gotten some things done earlier this morning, I was like, what the fuck am I going to talk about today? And it was just kind of a loose idea, but it came to me because Jordan Peterson was talking about this idea of when you're in a deep conversation, or if there's like a creative endeavor that you're pursuing, something that you're doing, something that grips you, that takes away the self-conscious voice inside of your head, grips you and gives you meaning. When you're in that place, it's between the border of order and chaos. And Jordan Peterson always says, you kind of want to be right smack dab in the middle. You want to have one foot grounded in things that things that don't change too much. You want some structure, some routine, some consistency to your life. But on the other side of that, in the unknown, you want to constantly be exploring and pursuing self-development and generating new ideas, because if you're always in structure and order and routine, you're essentially like a crusty piece of loaf of bread on the shelf that's expired and has been sitting there for too long, and nobody wants to pick it up and nobody's thrown it away because, I don't know, there's not good workers in your facility that notice that that loaf of bread needs to be discarded. And so I don't know, it just really made sense to me, and I've heard Jordan Peterson talk about this years and years and years ago on his YouTube channel. Like this is not a new subject for him to explore, but just sitting there in person at that lecture and kind of pulling what he was saying and trying to apply that to the context of what is going on in my life right now. And because me and my friend Dakota, we've always had really deep, profound bro talks. I haven't seen him up until I saw him on Tuesday. I hadn't seen him since it was like October of 2021. So it's been quite a long time since we've been able to connect. But this is something that him and I talked about, is every time that him and I meet up, it doesn't matter how long it's been, how much time we've spent apart, when we put our phones away and we get rid of the distractions and we just sit there and we catch up and kind of go through, hey, what's been going on in your life? What's been going on in my life? We arrive to this point almost every single time where we're in that state of a little bit of border and in the known and the structure, but there's also a part of us that is trying to learn and trying to grow and trying to challenge our previous preconceived notions and beliefs about how we've been carrying ourselves or conducting ourselves for the last however many months. And there's always it feels like to me that there's always this transformation progress that's going on, because you can feel that there's like a subtle shift. And again, I don't really know how to verbalize it. I'm trying to do the best that I can. If you guys have experienced that feeling, which I'm sure we all have, then please let me know what it feels like to you down in the comments. But for me, at least the way that I experience and how me and Dakota acknowledged it is, and it's the same thing that Jordan Peterson says, is your sense of time fades away and you don't even realize that you're so deeply gripped into that conversation that you forget about all the other things that are going on in your head throughout your day-to-day basis, before you go to work, or if you're having trouble sleeping and there's this problem that's been on your mind and you can't solve it. I think that's the really beautiful thing about these conversations, and they serve a big purpose. And for me and Dakota, we just kind of recognize it's holy shit, man, it's been a long time since we've caught up, but we didn't even miss a beat. We were just there for each other. Now that I'm really trying to understand this concept and apply it to my life and put myself in more situations that bring it about, there has to be a constant desire to want to learn, to want to grow, to want to improve. And I think that we as humans should never lose sight of that. I mean, yeah, you can't have deeply profound, life-enhancing conversations every day unless you're a really lucky person. But what I've been trying to do ever since we had that conversation on Tuesday and then going to the lecture, and my mind was just buzzing with all these ideas, I really tried to extract meaning from that conversation. What sort of tools and advice that I got from my bro talk with Dakota and the lecture with Jordan Peterson, how could I take what I was feeling and what I was thinking about in those moments and apply that to my life moving forward? Because honestly, like I said, 2 weeks ago, I was kind of going through a rough period, and I've gone through this patch for the last 3 or 4 weeks where I overthink and get myself into a little bit of a rut, and then I pull myself out, and then I'm good for 4 or 5 or 6 days, and then at some point I totally forgot what I was doing that was good, and then I kind of get myself into an overthinking rut. But I feel I realized that there are deep truths inside of me that I was ignoring and I wasn't expressing in my life, in some decisions that I had to make. And I feel I knew the answer to those situations, but I wasn't acting upon it. And so then this is where the idea of intuition comes from, is we are very intuitive, spiritual creatures, but a lot of people have gotten out of touch with their intuitive side, and it's a muscle and it's a skill. It's just like anything else that you try to develop in life. If you have an intuition or you have a feeling about something but you ignore it, then you weaken that muscle. But instead, like if you get that sensation, and you're like, hey man, there's just something that's like off about this thing that I'm going through, and I can't figure out why it is, but I have this feeling. I feel like you should pursue that, and that's it's hard because I'm torn on that subject. Like you shouldn't always you shouldn't always trust your feelings and your emotions, because feelings and emotions come and go. They're not necessarily here or like grounded in reality and something that we can point out as facts. But when you feel something, you should validate your feelings. You're feeling something, and you should act accordingly. And usually your gut or that instinct, I wouldn't say all the time, but it's trying to tell you something. So whatever it is, you can derive that own meaning for yourself. But I think following your intuition, the more and more that you do it, it's going to strengthen that sort of muscle and that reflex inside of you. So those are just some of the things that I've been learning and trying to apply in my life for the last week or so. And like I think things have improved. I've definitely not been overthinking as much. And it's going to be a continual process going through my entire life. Like, I don't know. I'm just naturally an overthinker. Like I'm a very ambitious person, and ambitious people tend to overthink almost everything that they do. Now, I'm kind of working myself into this process of not overthinking as much. There's pros and cons to everything that we do. So, personality traits, aspects of your character, like all of it is a double-edged sword. So for overthinking can serve you in a lot of ways, because you're looking through all of the data and you're trying to figure out, what is the best direction to go to. So in that way, like you're trying to inform yourself of all the possible directions. And people that overthink are generally pretty smart. That's the misconception about them, is like, it's like, hey, stop overthinking. Well, some people lack the critical thinking, or they don't overthink at all, that they literally settle on, the first thing that comes to your mind. And so there's pros and cons to every situation. Being an overthinker has helped me in a lot of areas in my life. And then on the flip side of that coin, it's got me into a lot of trouble, because you create problems and issues where there is none. So I don't know what I'm trying to say in this video. It's like a lot of these ideas that I've been juggling around in my head, but for the most part, like I think turning 25 on Monday, having a really good day that day, and then the next day hanging out with Dakota, first time I had seen him since October, going to the Jordan Peterson lecture. There's just a lot going on in my head, but I feel like I've come to some conclusions about some of the areas that I've been struggling in, and I'm just trying to find a better balance of all these things, because then last night I had a conversation with my parents about some of the same things that I've been discussing on this channel, topics that I've been going over, and just things that are going on in my life. And my dad's like, yeah man, you overthink everything. And I'm like, dude, I know, but like it's not that easy to stop doing. So I'm not rude towards myself for being that way. I'm not condemning myself for being an overthinker. I just notice and I understand that, okay, I gotta get better. Like I need to stop overthinking as much. And it's so much easier said than done, because it's not a switch. It's not like a light bulb that you could turn on or turn off. It takes time. And I don't think there's one single route that you could take to make yourself not be an overthinker anymore. It's something that you just have to work at relentlessly over the years. There's things that used to work for me, say a year ago, tactics that I would use to stop overthinking, and that worked for a while. And then at some point, just, those tactics that you were relying on before, they just don't work anymore. So I don't know. I think that I'm at a very pivotal point in my life, and I mean that not in the sense that like whatever I decide to do right now is do or die. It's just that, so I actually did get the job at Anytime Fitness up in Norwalk. I'm going to be a personal trainer / coach. So that's very exciting. And, I've been thinking for 6 or 7, 8 months, somewhere around there, that I was going to leave my current job, COC. But I was just praying about it to God. I kept saying, God, do not take me away from COC until it's time, until something else better arrives. And so I don't know what the path to life is, and none of us do. Even if you're trying to get on YouTube or on an inspirational podcast, whatever you're doing, and you're like telling people that you have all the answers, nobody has all the answers. We're all just trying to figure it out as we go along. But I feel like this job that I just got is a doorway to the next chapter of my life. And whatever happens in that chapter, I don't really know. Like, yes, I'm scared. Yes, I'm anxious. Yes, I'm worried about, how things are going to go. But you have to take those risks. You have to take those leaps. And so I feel like just by it's when I'm being retrospective and looking at my life, in the past and then going up to the point to where I'm at now, a lot of the times where I got like really anxious or I was in a rut or like, I was kind of struggling, as bad as those moments were, it's usually like when you get through those moments is when some of the biggest breakthroughs click. And now I'm not saying that I'm at that point, but I definitely feel like the last week or so since my birthday or whatever, I feel like I've had a much more clear headspace about what I need to do to improve my life. And then by getting this new job, which I don't start until April 4th, that's something that obviously it's going to be uncomfortable because it's a new job, it's a new experience, like I don't want to fuck up, but at the same time, you have to fuck up, you have to make mistakes if you want to learn and you want to grow, but it's going to test me as a person. It's going to test my previous knowledge of what I understand and all my life experiences at my other jobs and how I've been able to relate to people. I'm carrying that into my new job, but there's still like technicalities that I have to learn, like verbal language that I have to be able to communicate to clients when I'm teaching them how to do certain lifts or certain exercises. So just trying to tie all this in together, that's a perfect example of this idea about, kind of keeping your one foot in a place of structure and identity of you and how there are parts of you that may never change, but then you have to have another foot into the exploration realm where it's constant like digging and questioning and challenging your beliefs and your thought patterns and all that stuff that's a little outdated that's carried you to this point, like kind of going back to topics from 2 weeks ago and then even last week, certain traumas, certain fears, certain anxieties that you had growing up as a kid. You develop that headspace to get yourself through the situations that you went through as a kid. But as you get to be an adult, a lot of those neural pathways are not very constructive for the relationships or the situations that you find yourself in as an adult. So it's your obligation to go back and look at those things and deconstruct them because you want to be more successful. You want to have good relationships. You don't want to let your traumas and your fears and all that define who you are and allow those things to make your decisions for you. And so, I don't know. That's why I say that I think right now is just kind of a pivotal time for me. Like I said, it's not do or die. I just think that like I'm moving into the next phase of my life, and it's just kind of weird how like all these things have happened. I turned 25, got offered this job, and yeah, here in the next few weeks, I'm going to start that job, and like I'll still be a sub at COC just in case that job doesn't work out. But I don't know. I just think things are taking shape, and again, I can't hide from the fear and the anxiety that will definitely arise, in those first few weeks being at this new job. But you have to challenge yourself. You have to take risks. You have to bet on yourself. And I mean, honestly, for as much as I've complained about COC and how bad that job environment can be, you cannot complain about that shit if you're not willing to move on and take a risk or a different career path. And so I've been at COC for 2 years, and like I said, it was a job that was supposed to get me through college and pay for the bills, get me out of my parents' house again, and it did that and it served that. And I will be forever indebted and grateful for the experiences and the people supported that I met, and some of the coworkers that I met, and all the lessons that I learned while working there for the last 2 years. But it got to a point where I felt like my growth had capped out. And so if I were to stay there, yeah, I could like technically work up in management if I want to, but that's a whole nother topic for itself. Like I don't want to be in charge of a place like COC. It's so hard to change the culture of that place. And so again, going back to this overarching theme that Jordan Peterson was talking about, and then me and Dakota were talking about, is the known and the unknown. Like, there has to be a balance of that. And like, there's a lot of people in society, in our world, that like aren't challenging themselves enough. And Jordan Peterson's point is like, it's also bad to be in too much unknown. So say like you were in a 10-year relationship, and then all of a sudden you found out that your spouse was cheating on you, and then you guys break up. So you had house and kids and all that stuff together. Like, that is fully in the unknown, and that's going to produce a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear and a lot of panic and a lot of questions. And all of us have been there, and you don't want to be there, obviously, right? And I wouldn't encourage anybody to just put themselves into that place for the experiment. But there's usually some truth and some knowledge and some understanding, and all that pain that happens in that place usually molds you into a better person. But what I'm saying is, on a general basis of how you're conducting yourself throughout your day-to-day life and week to week, month to month, year to year, is like, you have to constantly have one foot in each space, one in the unknown and one in the known, and try and keep that balance, which none of us are perfect at keeping balance, myself included. I'm just saying, it's a good idea to constantly challenge yourself, to learn, to grow, to become a better person. And so I just feel like that's where I'm at. And like I said, I didn't really have a overall idea for this video. I just kind of had a loose idea. I hope what I was talking about in this video, this podcast, made a lot of sense for you guys. If you have any questions, if you need clarifications, just, let's just have a conversation. You can always comment in the comment section. But either way, I really appreciate you guys. I'm always open to feedback. So if you have any suggestions about how my videos run, always willing to talk and have some constructive criticism. I mean, I don't really know what videos or podcasts are landing with people, because honestly, still, like, I have a pretty small network, I feel like, of people that are watching my content. But like, I'm trying to explore different avenues and become creatively different, just challenge myself to put out different content. That's why like, for a period of time I'll be doing Music Monday, and then I'll come over and do this thing. Like, I never really have a plan. It's just like however it goes. But yeah, so if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe, like the video if you got something of value, if it made you think, if there were some heavy topics that I was discussing that made you consider a different way of thinking. Please share it with your friends. Please have conversations with like-minded individuals, and tell them to come over here and support my channel. I really have the best intentions to get this information out there to the right people. I certainly, like I said earlier, I don't have all the answers, but I'm trying to figure out a lot of those answers. And if I can give you guys any sort of advice from things that I've gone through in my life, and that can help you navigate some situation you're going through, I certainly, that's my mission. That's what I'm trying to do. So I thank you guys for whoever is over here watching my videos. I truly do appreciate it. And again, don't know what's going to come next week, but we're just going to roll with whatever's on my mind, baby. So take care, stay blessed, have a good weekend, have a good week. I love you guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.